Hi everyone, my name is Sam Smith. For my final project, I'll be talking about Brigham Young and the important expansion for his trip west. By all accounts, Brigham Young was a very fascinating person. He became a religious leader early in his life, which led him to become one of the most influential and most recognizable trailblazers in the Mormon church history. An interesting detail about Young is that he earned the nickname the American Moses that was due to him leading 60 to 70,000 Mormons to the Salt Lake City Valley. I was going to go ahead and show you a picture of Brigham. I think that's probably the picture that everyone sees whenever you Google him under images. I think 9 out of 10 of the pictures that you'll see is that particular picture of him. Being a leader within the Mormon church and active with others within his community, it was expected that Brigham would become a local and a state politician. The community and the church were overcome with joy when he became the first governor of Utah, which of course was a precursor to him founding the Mormon-based Brigham Young University. Young took a very bold stance on polygamy and his beloved Mormon church. Documentation has shown that he became a polygamist after converting to Mormonism in 1832. Historical evidence also shows that Brigham Young had up to 55 wives in his life, of which only 16 of his wives bore his 56 children. The history of the Mormon church is as unique as Brigham Young is. On June 27, 1844, Joseph Smith, who was the original founder of Mormonism, was assassinated in Carthage, Illinois. According to David Mason, who wrote Brigham Young, Sovereign in America, more than a year after the assassin shot Smith repeatedly and stabbed his body with a bayonet, Brigham is now bearing the church on his own shoulders. So it took nearly a year after Smith's assassination for Brigham to move into leadership position within the Mormon church. Brigham Young was ordained as the new president of the church in December, some 3.5 years after Joseph Smith's death, and then went on to become the longest serving president of the Mormon church. He served for 29 years. While being president, Young thought it was extremely important to continue spreading the word of the Mormon church. He found that one of his most important endeavors for his followers was to continue building temples. Daniel Ludlow, the author of Encyclopedia of Mormonism, was quoted as saying, "Several days after the Latter-day Saints pioneers entered the Salt Lake Valley in July 1847, Brigham Young planted his walking stick at a certain point while traversing the ground with some associates and exclaimed, 'And here we will build the temple of our God.' It was on this exact site that would become the location for the Salt Lake Temple." Young went on to oversee the construction of the Salt Lake Tabernacle as well. He also announced plans to build the St. George, the Manti, and the Logan temples. Because of all the hardships that were experienced during the trip west, the Mormon followers looked at Young as the ultimate leader that brought them through it all and into a community of their own. John Turner wrote a great book titled Brigham Young, Pioneer Prophet. This book was as much a study of the Latter-day Saints as it is a story of the life of one of the most influential men in American history, not just the Mormon Church. Turner shares many topics that illustrate that Young was not a perfect person, quite the opposite. If his life were studied closely from the lens of today's society, his day-to-day life would become a bit uncomfortable for many in the scope of today's culture. Brigham Young certainly had qualities that were imperfect in today's standards, even with his lifestyle that was difficult for those within his community to even understand. He was viewed as a formidable frontiersman and a leader that always rose to the challenge of leading his people across the country to the western frontier, and also to build a life for their families that conformed to the Mormon standards. Colonization was an important part of our American heritage, manifest destiny, moving west. As an early colonizer of Utah and a founder of the Salt Lake City, Young was an obvious choice to become the first governor of this western state. Young was appointed to this position by President Millard Fillmore on February 3, 1851. During his time as governor, he would play a key role in the growth of several states, including Utah, Idaho, Arizona, Nevada, California, Colorado, and even parts of northern New Mexico. Young was said to play an integral part in making the West livable and expandable by helping to create the groundwork for infrastructure, which included major roads, much-needed bridges, forts, irrigation projects to continue the growth of needed food for the community and drinking water, and also to establish public welfare for the needy and to bring together an organized militia. Yvette Eisen, who wrote The Beginnings of the University of Utah, states that after Mormons arrived in Utah, the Board of Regents was organized by Brigham Young to establish a university. With a growing demand for children's education, Young and others felt that a university was needed to train men and women as elementary school teachers. Education became very important to Young. Not only did he facilitate the creation of the University of Utah, he was also the founder of Brigham Young University. The Brigham Young family was one that many throughout the United States continued to question and often lead to suggestions of incarceration of the members of the Mormon Church. Young led what most would consider in America an odd family life. He was one of the more notable polygamists in American history. Lindy Lindercohn, a socialite of the era, wrote in her telltale book that it was amusing to walk by Brigham Young's big house, a long, rambling building with innumerable doors. Each wife has an establishment of her own. It consisted of a parlor, a bedroom, and a front door, the key of which she kept in her pocket. 25 years after his death, the New York Times wrote an article on Brigham Young's descendants, stating the number exceeded more than 1,000. In 1870, Young pushed Utah to give women the right to vote, which gave them equal political equality. Because Young was an active politician and had a huge influence over women, it seems only right that he would actually petition for the women in his life to gain the right to vote. Brigham Young wore many hats. He was the founder of one of the most controversial churches in America. He was a daring politician and a husband and a father to many. Whether we agree or disagree with Young, the works that he delivered in his lifetime changed the way that Americans look at politics, religion, and family. His impact on society continues even today. Kimball Young, a noted historian, agreed that during the 30 years between the Mormons' arrival in Utah in 1847 and Brigham Young's death in 1877, Young directed the founding of over 350 settlements in the Southwest. Thereby, the Mormons became the most important single agency in colonizing the vast and arid West between the Rockies and the Sierra Nevada. What an impact one man had on the American West. Thank you all for listening, and I do look forward to seeing each of y'all's videos as well.